Okay, so welcome everybody to another one of these brief Teams talks. Today I wanted to do kind of a showcase or a brief introduction to a newer resource that we have access to called AccessPharmacy. And if it sounds familiar, it's because it's made by McGraw-Hill, just like Access Medicine, which our students and faculty are probably more familiar with. A lot of our required textbooks are in Access Medicine. And I've done one of these Teams talks on Access Biomedical Science. And so this is just sort of another resource in that silo of resources that's made by McGraw-Hill. And just to start off with, I've put links to AccessPharmacy underneath databases on the LUCOM library page. So if you go to the liberty.edu/lucom/library and expand databases, it'll be right there. It's also on the research guide. If you use our LibGuide, there's a link to the research guide here. I've got a quick link to AccessPharmacy here on that page. Also, you can find it in our A to Z databases alphabetically, AccessPharmacy. So when you first go to the resource, you'll notice that it looks very familiar. It looks similar to our Access Medicine resource, and like I said, our Access Biomedical Science resource. So it's kind of, if you've used Access Medicine, this will already seem familiar, or even the Access Biomedical Science. Something I mentioned before we started was that this is I have a inkling that maybe this is more information or goes further than maybe our medical students do in their pharmacology. I'm not really sure, but this is geared towards people in pharmacy school. So you'll see there's guides for this board, the NAPLEX, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, NAPLEX review guide for students that are in pharmacy school. But there's a wealth of information here available to us. And so just like if you're familiar with Access Medicine, there's a library for books. There's a library for books in the AccessPharmacy collection, and there's also updates, which is pretty cool. So if I click on library, you'll see I've got books in health policy, internal medicine. The one that stuck out to me is Harrison's. There's a version of Harrison's in here. Basic clinical pharmacology might be a little bit of crossover because I know our students use that one. But you'll see there's books in all this stuff. Of course, NAPLEX, but medicinal chemistry, pharmacoepidemiology, pharmacokinetics. But there's just a wealth of books here that might be a good addition to the students' pharmacology studies. There's updates available here that are continually being added to, and you'll see some of these are added. Like I mentioned, Harrison's is in here. There's updates for Harrison textbooks they put in here, but this is continually updated. Something that's interesting to me, it's new to me, is this concept of evidence-based pharmacy practice. Of course, I'm more familiar with hearing the terminology of evidence-based medicine and all that entails, but apparently this is part of the pharmacology field to practice evidence-based pharmacy practice. And this is organized, it's kind of like a blog by topics. You'll see that most recently they've published things November 12th and then into September. So this is just an additional tool that's available in this particular resource. And they keep older textbooks archived for a small period of time as the new editions come out. I want to show you this quick reference, which is pretty cool because I've actually gotten questions from students sometimes about supplements. And this actually has an herbs and supplements section built into it. And what's cool is I can look up a supplement or something, from the vitamin shop or something, Acacia Gum Arabic, and it's got information on side effects they can have. Usually there'll be some type of information about drug interaction to whether or not you can take that drug, or excuse me, that you can take that supplement and whether it's going to interact negatively with a medication, like a prescription medication that a patient might be taking, and there's a ton of these available. You can search through them too. There's quick pharmacy question, quick answers, which is kind of just what it would sound like. What it sounds like it is. It's just kind of a quick reference and quick answers for pharmacy questions. It's not coming up. It's kind of going slow. Also, don't have to go to it, but the FDA. Oh, here's the quick answers for the pharmacy. So you can look through disorders, acne vulgaris, asthma, anxiety disorders, and find quick answers for pharmacy for that. I don't have to go to it, but there's the FDA MedWatch. So you can actually get updated information about new drugs that are being approved or current drugs that are being approved for new uses. So that's available there. Of course, being a pharmacy resource, there's a drug database. So this is cool that we have three. We actually have three of these. If you've used UpToDate or the resource Lexicomp, those actually can work together. There's Lexicomp drug information built into UpToDate, but we have access to the Lexicomp drug database if you're familiar with that. I've done one of these Teams talks where I've talked about the clinical point of care reference tool Dynamed, which is a competitor for UpToDate. And that actually includes drug information from something called the IBM MicroMedX database. So we've got Lexicomp, IBM MicroMedX, and now we also have this drug database available in AccessPharmacy. So whichever one you like, you can use. I'm not sure what the name of this one is, but it's pulling from Wolters Kluwer for all this drug information. And there's generics, trade names, just like any other drug database, drug classes, patient handouts. I think it's kind of cool. There's patient handouts because you can see how this can be used for in a clinical way for getting patient. There's also patient education available in this resource. Multimedia, I've tried to show before multimedia that's available in Access Medicine. Just like in Access Medicine and AccessPharmacy, there's videos, lectures. Again, this is kind of a board review, but there's also Harrison's pathophysiology animations, which can be kind of cool. Being a Access Medicine, or excuse me, being a McGraw-Hill Access resource, there are cases available. In the past, our students in 3rd and 4th year have made use of the case files resource that's connected with Access Medicine. There's also case files for pharmacology. So if you're looking for clinical vignettes to study clinical scenarios and how pharmaceuticals play into that, you have case files available within this resource. And you can see there's not a ton, there's not as many as there are for just the basic case files, but still could be useful for study of a more clinical scenario. Something I think students really are interested in, because they're always asking about it, is where they can find questions, where they can find study tools. There's a ton of these things available in AccessPharmacy. There's review questions. And if I click on this, you'll see I've showed before how you can find review questions in Access Medicine. It's the same thing here in AccessPharmacy. They pull questions from each one of these resources, and there's a ton here. You can see there's 340 from Cazaret and Doole's Essential Toxicology, 345 from Drug Information. I mean, there's just a ton of 649 from this one. I mean, there's just a ton of self-review questions. It's a really good resource for our students to have to quiz themselves. The big thing they seem to really focus on in AccessPharmacy is flashcards, and I've showed flashcards available in Access Medicine before, but these are more tailored to AccessPharmacy. But you can see there's a ton of these, and it's almost like a game. Well, let's see if I can show. Actually, the game is actually called Showdown. So the flashcards are just like digital flashcards, but you can see they have them for non-prescription, injectable, non-prescription judge challenge. But this Showdown thing I always thought was kind of neat. I don't know how much students actually use this, but it's kind of like studying by like playing like a trivia game kind of, and I think you can compete against other users, so it's kind of cool. The NAPLEX Central, I'm not going to go too much into. I think that's the board exam for people in pharmacy school, so that's not necessarily for us. But this patient education is pretty cool. And I always think it's kind of neat, like personally, if I go to a doctor and I get prescribed new medication or I have some particular condition and the doctor can hand me something that I can understand as a non-physician. There's a ton of these patient education information handouts. There's PDF, you can print them out and give them to patients in a clinical. And there's a medicines advisor and a pediatric advisor. And also just to show you, if you want to search, just like Access Medicine, you can search resources in AccessPharmacy, and it'll actually pull up topics from different books that are available in the collection. But you can also see there's facets where I can build a more complicated search. I can add another term into a different index field, whether it's title or author, and I can use these facets to find book chapters, tables, images, cases. You see, so if I'm looking for some of those cases I was saying can be used for study, if I'm looking for cases dealing with hypertension, I have 132 here that I can find. So that's just kind of another way to use the resource. I will say to use the study tools, any of these flashcards or these review questions, and I believe to go through the cases too, you have to create that MyAccess profile if you don't already have one. In the past, I've encouraged students, well, in the past, students have used case files, which you have to have a MyAccess profile to use. But to use any of these more in-depth features of this resource, you do have to create a My Access profile if you don't already have one. You can see I'm signed in right here. So next to where it says Liberty University College of Osteopathic Medicine, it has my name. If you don't have one yet, it's free. It's as easy as setting up like a Gmail account. It's really simple, and it doesn't cost anything. It's associated with the access provided through LUCOM. So I know that's very quick. I feel like maybe I spoke a little too quickly, but that's just sort of an intro showcase of what's available in here. I think it could really be useful for faculty who are developing pharmacology lectures, or students who are having to do studies of pharmacology for their courses. And I see that there was a question. Looks like, oh, maybe not. Okay, so that's basically what I wanted to show today. I'm sorry if it's a little bit quick, but I'm happy to help anybody with this resource if they're more interested in it. I want to see how it could be used to build out lecture slides or anything like that. And of course, as I was mentioning to Dr. Das, I'm recording this, so I will put it up on our YouTube channel and link to it on the research guide. So anybody that wants to come back and look at this again, or if they weren't able to make it today, can watch the recording.
Thank you, Robert.
So thank you guys. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Rob.